Chosen ones, your silence is louder than war drums, an untraceable frequency only the divine can decode. While your absence haunts them like a ghost they swore they buried, you move like mist, everywhere and nowhere at once. They scroll, they stalk, they spiral, consumed by the emptiness you left behind. But you are in sacred retreat, beyond the reach of the corrupted mastering realms they can't even name, let alone navigate. You are the forbidden thought they choke on in silence, the memory that stings every time they pretend they've moved on. You are the divine echo in their minds, the missed miracle they fumbled with dirty hands. Though they ache to trace your light, heaven has veiled you in shadow, unreachable to the unworthy. Your vanishing act isn't weakness, it's a sacred shield. Their endless yearning, their sleepless seeking, is the universe's way of showing you were never theirs to keep. You are the lesson, you are the consequence. They smiled with open arms while weaving invisible chains, cloaking their envy in concern, their control in companionship. They built their webs with soft words and false warmth, not to uplift you, but to siphon your brilliance and anchor your spirit. It was never protection, it was possession. They studied your soul like a blueprint, hoping to replicate your magic while dulling the original. But your spirit cannot be caged. What they mistook for loyalty was a ritual of extraction, and what they feared most, your rising, has already begun. They cloaked their sabotage in tradition, hierarchy, and duty, carefully crafting environments where your brilliance could be dimmed without detection. In classrooms, they labeled your vision as distraction. At work, they stole your ideas and called it teamwork. At home, they gaslit your intuition and named it love. But it was all a ritual of suppression, a slow erosion of your self-belief meant to sever your connection to the divine source within. They knew who you were before you did. That's why they struck early, subtly, consistently. But your awakening is their unraveling. Every time they tried to bury your light, they watered the very roots of your resurrection. Their betrayal was the proof. They never hated you because you were weak. They feared you because you were awakening. Every backhanded compliment, every ghosting at your lowest, every sudden silence when your soul cried out was not random. It was orchestrated. They moved like shadows, staying just near enough to siphon your light, but always out of reach when your spirit called for true alliance. Their loyalty was performance, their concern conditional. But even in their absence, you rose. Their avoidance became the echo of your power, and their silence the loudest admission. You were never one of them. You were sent to transcend them. You were surrounded not by a tribe, but by a covert spiritual militia, each member assigned a role in the silent war against your light. They posed as confidants while extracting your visions, only to twist them into weapons of delay and confusion. Some praised you with poisoned words, feeding your ego just enough to keep you tethered, while others starved you of genuine support to keep your wings clipped. Their unity was not built on love, but on fear. Fear of your rising, fear of your healing, fear that you might remember who you truly are. Your breakthroughs were their alarms, your joy their threat. They didn't gather to uplift you, they assembled to contain you. Your suffering was their comfort, proof that the divine had forgotten you, that maybe you weren't as chosen as your spirit declared. Their pity was performative, laced with quiet delight at seeing your light dimmed, your stride slowed. But when grace lifted you, when blessings returned like waves and your spirit began to rise again, the mask cracked. Smiles faded into scowls, and encouragement twisted into calculated sabotage. Among them lurked one in particular whose fixation went beyond envy. They studied your soul like prey, not out of love, but hunger, drawn to your divinity not to honor it, but to possess and consume it. A spiritual parasite cloaked in admiration. To them, you were both salvation and threat, a divine mirror reflecting everything they lacked, but desperately craved. Your energy was too high, too holy, too healing for their fragmented soul to metabolize without distortion. Instead of rising to meet your frequency, they sought to cage it, to drain it, to twist it into something they could control. Their love was laced with sabotage, their praise always followed by poison. You were their first encounter with heaven's vibration, and instead of bowing in reverence, they attempted to devour what they couldn't understand. But your light was never meant to be owned. It was sent to awaken, not to be imprisoned. They were drawn to your essence like a moth to sacred fire, enchanted, yet afraid of being consumed. Their soul trembled at the frequency you carried, for it exposed their own emptiness. And so they waged an invisible war, one part worship, one part destruction. With a predator's precision, they memorized your rhythms, disguised manipulation as intimacy, and echoed your light in counterfeit reflections designed to keep you entangled. They cloaked their obsession in devotion, but their love was a lie, a carefully crafted illusion meant to keep you tethered, not treasured. They didn't want to grow beside you, they wanted to glow through you. Their love was never love, it was hunger, masked in reverence, a desperate attempt to feast on your divinity while pretending to cherish it. They mistook proximity for possession, thinking they could mold your radiance into something they could manage, something small enough to control. But when your spirit refused to shrink, when your truth shattered the illusions they clung to, their adoration curdled into rage. Their blessings became backhanded, their support a sharpened blade. You were never theirs to tame, and that truth fractured them. They didn't want to walk beside greatness, they wanted to consume it, and when they couldn't, they tried to destroy it. Their deadliest weapon wasn't a sword or a shout, it was the quiet, insidious whisper that made you question your own soul's voice. They twisted your visions into illusions, branded your sacred knowing as delusion, and sowed seeds of doubt where certainty once bloomed. Every insight you received, every divine nudge, they challenged with cunning subtlety, eroding your trust in the very light that set you apart. Their manipulation was a calculated assault, not just on your mind, but on your destiny. A desperate effort to keep you shackled, dimmed, and disconnected from the power you were born to wield. But your truth knows no shadow. Their fixation is the loudest confession of their own spiritual poverty. They feared the purity you embodied because it reflected the divine they could never reach. You were their nearest glimpse of God's face, yet their hearts, closed and unready, repelled the blessing like poison. The universe itself sent you signs too vivid to ignore, visions burning through the veil of ordinary life, dreams erupting like thunder to wake your soul, and moments carved in time that screamed, "Enough." These were not coincidences but sacred alarms, guiding you away from the unworthy and toward the destiny only you can fulfill. Even the heavens grew restless, their patience worn thin by the relentless attempts to tether your boundless spirit to the mundane and unworthy. Then came the unmistakable summons, like a thunderous stallion charging through the corridors of your soul, a sacred emblem of liberation and unstoppable ascent. This was no mere vision, but a divine decree, a celestial message from the realm where your essence is honored and your purpose embraced in its fullest glory. The call was clear. Break free from the cages of doubt and fear and ride fiercely toward the destiny only you can claim. The horse was more than a symbol. It was the celestial chariot summoned to carry you beyond the shadows of confinement and decay. Its arrival stirred ancient sacred defenses deep within your spirit, guardians that had rested silently, awaiting the exact moment of your awakening. Like an army rising from the depths, these forces ignited with unyielding precision, fortifying your soul against deception and draining energies. Your vision cleared as if a fog lifted, revealing the true faces hidden behind countless masks, exposing the illusions that once blurred your path. You were no longer a prey to confusion, you had become the sovereign of your own divine battlefield. The floodgates of divine wisdom swung open, pouring torrents of clarity and revelation into your consciousness. Insights came like lightning strikes, illuminating the hidden agendas of those who masqueraded as allies but schemed as enemies. You received sacred blueprints of the spiritual battleground, decoding the subtle tactics aimed at derailing your purpose. These downloads transcended earthly knowledge, sourced from realms where time and space dissolve, gifting you the foresight and strength to navigate your path with unwavering certainty. The veil lifted. Now you walk fully armed with truth that no darkness can withstand. Suddenly the veils ripped away, and you stood face to face with truths never taught but deeply known, realities vibrating beyond the reach of the ordinary mind. This was no slow unraveling, but a sudden ignition, a divine spark igniting your entire being in an instant. A whirlwind of transformation swept through your existence with unstoppable power, reshaping everything in its path. Even those who once sought to control your destiny could no longer deny the seismic shift. Something colossal had awakened within you, a force that could no longer be contained or silenced. Before they could name the shift, the air around them thickened with the unmistakable charge of transformation. But you, anchored in divine knowing, recognized the call for what it was, the summons of heaven reclaiming its precious child, beckoning you back to your rightful throne of power and purpose. Your leaving was no mere journey of distance. It was a sacred disappearance, a metaphysical eclipse that rendered you invisible to their eyes and unreachable by their grasp. You vanished not to escape, but to rise, untouchable, unstoppable, and forever free. Your departure was not a mere shift in space, but a transcendence into realms untouched by their poison, realms where their darkness dissolved like mist in the morning sun. The moment you severed their access to your energy, a seismic unraveling shook their carefully woven web. You were the unseen axis, the vital spark keeping their fragile illusion intact. Without your light to anchor their facade, their false collective unraveled swiftly, crumbling under the weight of its own toxicity. What once seemed unbreakable fell apart with a speed that only divine justice could command. As you stepped beyond their reach, the fragile threads that once bound them to you snapped and unraveled into nothingness. Alliances that thrived on your energy turned to dust, and the illusion of unity they clung to collapsed without the cornerstone of your light. You moved like a shadow cloaked in divine protection, an enigma hidden beneath heaven's own shield, far beyond the grasp of earthly eyes and surveillance. Your presence faded from every trace, erased with the stealth of a spiritual ninja who knows when to strike, when to vanish, and when to reveal the full magnitude of their power in perfect timing. Your digital footprints dissolved into the ether, profiles erased like whispers lost to the wind, while numbers and addresses morphed beyond recognition. Even those once close to you became silent, powerless to offer any clues to the desperate hunters who chased shadows. Your crossing of oceans and borders was more than a move. It was the outward sign of a profound crossing between worlds, a step into elevated dimensions where their heavy, toxic frequencies dissolved before they could touch you. In these sacred spaces, you found sanctuary, a peace so deep it silenced every echo of pursuit and fear. You realized that true liberation lies not in fleeing, but in rising, becoming unreachable to those who seek to leech your sacred energy, yet radiant and present for the souls worthy of your grace. While they scramble through the surface world, chasing shadows across screens and profiles, you dwell in realms of light and power far beyond their grasp. Their desperate searches are like echoes in an empty canyon, futile attempts to find what lives in dimensions they have no language for. You exist beyond their reach, untouchable and sovereign, a luminous force operating on a frequency they cannot even begin to decode. Though you have vanished beyond their reach, your absence roars like an erupting volcano in the silence they never expected. It overwhelms their minds, drowning out every whispered doubt and false certainty with the undeniable truth of what they lost. Your essence haunts their dreams like a relentless tide, crashing against the shores of their consciousness with piercing clarity. Now, in the void you left behind, they feel your power more vividly than when you were near, each pulse of your energy revealing the depth of their blindness and the magnitude of their neglect when your light was theirs to squander. Even in silence, Your presence infiltrates their minds, sending waves of unfiltered truth straight into their subconscious during moments when their defenses falter. No matter how fiercely they try to mute the divine frequency radiating from your very existence, fragments of your higher wisdom break through like rays of relentless light. They awaken to uncomfortable truths about their own spiritual emptiness, confronted by the undeniable evidence of their failure to honor the sacred trust they once held. Your silent transmissions serve as a constant, unyielding reminder of their betrayal, a living testimony to the vast chasm between their intentions and your divine reality. The one consumed by obsession endures a torment that defies all earthly understanding, a spiritual withdrawal that leaves no trace in medical charts or scientific tests. Haunted by your absence, they feel phantom touches where your light once brushed against their soul, hear whispered echoes of your voice in the noise of everyday life, and glimpse your shadow flickering just beyond their gaze, only for it to vanish the moment they seek to confirm. This torment is a silent scream from the depths of a spirit addicted to what it can no longer possess, caught in the endless ache of longing for a presence that has transcended their reach.